Help me reach 1,000 subscribes. Support the video with a like and leave your thoughts in the comments. I read every comment. Thanks. I never thought a sentence could end a marriage without being said to the person it was about. If I had known, I would have swallowed the words, bitten my tongue, done anything to take them back. But words don't work that way. Once they exist, they find their way to the ears they're meant to hurt. My name is Hannah. I'm 38, and until 3 weeks ago, I was married to a man named Daniel. We met in our late 20s, when life still felt flexible. Daniel was steady in a way that felt rare even then. He wasn't flashy, wasn't loud. He listened. He remembered things. When he promised something, it happened. I used to tell my friends that being with him felt like standing on solid ground. For the first several years, that's exactly what it was. We built routines together without even trying. Coffee in the mornings, walks after dinner. Quiet Sundays that didn't need filling. When we married, I believed comfort was a sign of success. I still do, or at least I did. Things didn't break all at once. They thinned. Conversations shortened. Laughter became polite. Daniel worked longer hours at the firm. I took on more responsibility at home. None of it felt unfair in isolation, but slowly it created distance neither of us named. I noticed it first at night. When he'd fall asleep facing the other side of the bed, I told myself it meant nothing. I started venting to my sister, Claire. She lives across town, single, blunt in a way I've always admired and feared. Our calls became my release valve. I'd pace the kitchen while talking, lowering my voice out of habit even though Daniel was usually in the garage or shower. I complained about feeling invisible, about carrying the emotional weight of everything, about how marriage felt lonelier than being alone. One evening, after a long day that ended in an argument over something small, I called Claire again. I was tired, irritated, and careless. I said things I'd thought, but never examined. I said I didn't think Daniel desired me anymore. I said sometimes I wondered if I had settled. Then I said it. The sentence I replay now in my head at least 100 times a day. I said, if I'm honest, I think my life would be easier if he just disappeared. I didn't mean it literally. I meant the marriage, the tension, the constant trying. But words don't carry footnotes. Claire went quiet for a second, then told me I was exhausted and didn't mean it. We changed the subject. I hung up, washed my face, and went to bed. The next morning, Daniel was already gone when I woke up. That wasn't unusual, but something felt off. His coffee mug was still in the sink, untouched. His jacket wasn't on the hook by the door. I texted him a simple good morning. No reply. By evening, the silence had grown heavy. I called him twice, straight to voicemail. I told myself he was busy, that I was overreacting, but anxiety has a way of sharpening every thought. When his car still was in the driveway by midnight, I barely slept. The truth came the following afternoon, in a way I never anticipated. Claire showed up at my door unannounced, her face pale, eyes glossy like she'd been crying for hours. She sat down without taking off her coat and said my name the way people do when they're about to change your life. She told me Daniel had come by her apartment the night before. He'd been dropping off some paperwork she'd asked him to review weeks earlier. He arrived early enough to hear my voice through her open window, clear enough to hear every word. She said he didn't knock. He didn't interrupt. He stood there, listened, then left without saying a thing. And that was the last time anyone I know has seen my husband. Since then, his phone remains off, his email unanswered, and the house feels like a waiting room where time has stopped, and every sound reminds me of what I broke forever now. I spent the next 2 days oscillating between panic and denial. I told myself Daniel needed space, that he would cool off, that overhearing something painful didn't erase 13 years of shared life. I cleaned the house obsessively, as if order might summon him back. I replayed our marriage in fragments, searching for signs I'd missed, moments where he might have already been slipping away. On the third day, a knock came at the door. It wasn't Daniel. It was a courier with a small box addressed to me in his handwriting. My hand shook as I signed. Inside was his wedding ring, placed carefully on top of a folded note. No apology, no accusation, Just 6 lines written with the same neat precision he used for everything else. Hannah, I heard what you said. I believe you meant it. I don't think you're cruel. I think you're honest in ways you didn't realize. I won't argue the truth you spoke when you thought I wasn't listening. Please don't look for me. I read it until the words blurred. There was no anger in it, which somehow hurt more. Anger would have meant engagement. A door still cracked open. This was finality dressed as calm. I tried anyway. I called his parents, his friends, his co-workers. Everyone knew something, but no one knew enough. He had resigned from his job without explanation. His bank accounts were untouched except for a single withdrawal. His car was found parked long-term at an airport outside the city. After that, nothing. Weeks passed, then months. The legal machinery of disappearance moved slowly. Paperwork replaced hope. The house echoed with his absence. I stopped calling Claire, not out of blame, but because every conversation led back to that night, to my voice, careless and sharp, floating through an open window. I started therapy, not because I expected answers, but because silence had become too loud. My therapist asked me what I thought Daniel heard underneath my words. I told her fear, exhaustion, loneliness. She asked what he probably heard. I said, confirmation. That was the part one hadn't understood before. I thought love eroded loudly through fights and betrayals. I didn't realize it could end quietly, through a sentence spoken without intent, overheard without context, and believed because it aligned with what someone already feared. One evening, nearly a year later, I received an email from an address I didn't recognize. It was Daniel. Short, measured. He said he was safe. He said he had moved far away. He said he wasn't angry. But he couldn't unhear what I said, and he didn't want to live with someone who imagined a better life without him in it. He wished me well. He asked me not to reply. I respected that, because it was the last thing I could give him. People ask now what happened to my marriage. I say it ended because of distance, because of miscommunication, because we grew apart. All of that is true. But the real ending happened in a moment I didn't even know existed until it was too late. A moment where honesty slipped out unguarded and landed exactly where to do the most damage. I still believe words matter. I just understand now that they matter even more when we think no one is listening. Especially then. I live alone now. The house is smaller, quieter, sometimes peaceful, sometimes unbearable. I don't blame Daniel for leaving. I don't fully blame myself either. But I carry the weight of knowing that the worst thing I ever said wasn't shouted in anger or hurled during a fight. It was spoken casually, carelessly, into the false safety of privacy. And it cost me the one person who loved me enough to believe me when I told the truth.